I want to talk about the NFL draft because that is the overarching, like, I guess the final like closing of the chapter for the 2025 Indiana Hoosiers. Is they brought us the national championship, 16-0, all that good stuff. Pro Day was about a month ago, and now here we are approaching the NFL draft. And the cool thing about the draft is it's going to be on during the spring game, and kind of we'll talk about that as we get to the spring game. But I specifically want to talk about the NFL draft because it's obviously headlined by Fernando Mendoza. And if you look at the odds for who's going to go where on FanDuel, Fernando Mendoza still minus 20,000 to be the number one overall pick to go to the Raiders. Nobody's debating that. It seems like they've been printing Fernando jerseys in the shop for 2-3 months now. Omar Cooper Jr. minus 2,000 to go in the first round. He's also plus 650 to go number 16 to the Jets. So a little bit scary, but also very exciting for me as a Jets fan is at least I'll have a reason to watch the team next year if they end up taking Coop. And the other thing that stuck out to me before I want to jump into like how you project these guys into the draft is obviously we've been following the way FanDuel has been putting out the odds all draft season. Last week they released who's going to be picked in the first round. D'Angelo Pons was plus 1,500. Today, plus 1,000. He's the 33rd quote unquote like ranked prospect in terms of FanDuel odds. And so definitely something to keep an eye on is it just takes one guy to love D'Angelo Pons and he's a first rounder. So that'd be very cool. But Brad, I want to just real quickly, I want to get your draft grades for these guys and then a little bit of a takeaway from the 2025 Hoosiers before we put a bow on it and move on.
I thought we're doing spring game first.
No.
Okay. All right. Draft. You want just like a closing thoughts on it? Like
draft, like where do you see these guys? You told me you had the draft.
Oh yeah, I have it. Like, yeah, you've had better tee ups.
I have. You're right.
You've had better. You've had better. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying you've had better.
You didn't listen to any of the
I did. What are you talking about? It wasn't a good tee up. It's okay. We're accountability guys here. You know. Anyways, you're still driving. It's okay. Fernando, I got him as a first round grade. I really think he's gonna go first round, probably first overall. Raiders haven't needed a quarterback. It makes a ton of sense. And there's a lot of rumors around it too, and it's been pretty assumed media wide that he's going number one based on all the coverage. It'd be a very big shock if Ty Simpson went one overall. Let's just say that. Yep, big surprise. Or honestly, like if you want to take Caleb Downs there, like I don't hate it. I don't hate that. Don't hate that move. He's probably the best player in the draft. Like this is safety's not, super valuable though in these markets per se, but definitely most star potential. Pons, I have a first round grade. A lot of this hasn't changed throughout the course of time, but we've been instructed. We could say the same things over and over again. It doesn't matter. D'Angelo Pons, first overall grade, or no, first round grade. And Cooper, I also have a first round grade. What are his odds on FanDuel for that?
Minus 2,000 to go in the first round.
Wow.
Plus 650 to go to the Jets at 16. Wow.
And I feel like I was on that a lot. I feel like I gave him a first round grade like 3 months ago. So that's good to see that. Surratt, I could see him going second round as early as that. Wouldn't be shocked to see him go round 3. Wouldn't be the craziest thing I've ever seen in the world. Yeah, I hope, Surratt, we know it's third and Surratt, third and Elijah all day. Aiden Fisher and Stephen Daly, I have as third round grades. However, these are guys where I could see them slipping to like day 3. Fisher doesn't have these measurables. Daly coming off an injury. Those are just things that, scouts really do critique, especially when they're using a third round pick. That's where they're trying to find a starter. I see Daly and Fisher as starters in the league just based on their production in college and kind of what I saw from them. I know Daly's an absolute freak. We'll be able to him being able to keep that freakishness post-injury is probably a big question a lot of people are having. Whereas for Fisher, it's like, can his lack of freakishness translate to the NFL at a starter level? And we know he's a very good football player. The guy's making a roster, no doubt. But can he, you draft him and I feel like you can get him in the 4th or 5th round. And all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, we drafted a starting linebacker. It's like, oh, we got too many linebackers to deal with now. where he's going to be playing once they get on 11-11 drills. Like, I feel like he's really going to stand out to a lot, like always making the right play, things like that. Like, get him in your locker room and you'll be happy you brought him in. That's how I see Aiden Fisher. Mikhail Kamara I have as a 4th round grade. However, that's a guy that could sneak up to round 3. I think he has that production in 2024. I think there's a scout or two out there, I'd have to imagine, that's like raving about this kid with the way he is as a person, his production, pressure-wise. Sack numbers were low, but sack numbers were high the previous year. It's not, that's not too crazy. It's not like he's never had high productive sack volume. He's had it. It's just all situational. A lot of these stats are so situational. How many times do I have to say that? Right? And, we'll get back to that. Mikhail Kamara, 4th round grade. Roman Hemby I have as a 4th round grade just because of his, not only can he be a guy that you can give carries to in an NFL team, I think he brings that kick return element to a team that teams are going to be looking for. I think it's going to be a bigger and bigger part of this game. It's going to have more value to it. Field position has always been, even more so, more than ever, with so much little, with so smaller margins between quarterback play and just teams in general. The field position game has just become huge. So having a big-time kick returner in a Roman Hemby gives him a 4th round grade. And he's been getting the rounds on media. Like, that's a guy that can sneak up, just based off that, because he's a very productive college back and also has a kick return attributes to his game.
Yeah, and you were on it. He was all over the media this week. He was on Good Morning Football. He was on with Kay Adams, and rave reviews all around with the type of character Roman Hemby has. But yeah, absolutely.
100%. Pat Coogan I have as a 5th round grade, just as an older center, 5th year guy. Like, a lot of the guys I gave 1st round, top first 2 days grades, they're all 4th year or lower, like 4th or 3rd year guys. The rest of the guys that are draft eligible are all 5th years. Besides, I believe, Wyatt, who's coming off a big injury, and Johnny Brady, who likely doesn't have. I think he gets onto a 90-man, but I don't really see him getting drafted as a wide receiver 5 out of Indiana. Like, it's just that's going to be some crazy scouting. Like, from that standpoint, brings a lot of return element. I could see a team bringing him in though. Anyways, like, these guys I really only have knocked this far as they're super talented, but they are 5th year guys. Like, they're older, bigger, risk in the fact, like, was this tape because they're 23 playing in college, or was it because they're really good football players? And usually it's a little bit of both, which is why they'll get drafted, but it won't be, as high of a value. It won't be a top 100 pick. You know what I mean? Pat Coogan, 5th round grade. I think center, O-line is always going to be like a big need that teams are looking for. And I think he has the size at 6'5", 311 to where that's an NFL body. Like, he might not have the craziest athleticism, but he has the production where someone's going to take a chance on him, right? Someone's going to like the kid. Lou Moore, he's a 6th year guy, very old. I have him as a 5th round grade. Only that high because he is coming off an All-American season, right? Like, this is a guy who, All-Americans tend to carve out leagues. Like, that's a guy where he can get round 5 and he can be, like, if we want to just, like, quickly project, like, Lou Moore's career, like, he can come in and have, like, a 5-year NFL career, but he's starting on a team for, like, 3 or 4 of those. And then there's just a sudden, like, drop off for whatever reason. He gets beat out by a guy, a younger kid comes in and gets his job. So NFL's really hard. It's hard to keep a job. Teams are always trying to get better at every position every year. And so it's hard to maintain those jobs, right? So that's why they lean younger. That's why they lean they're not going to take a 6th year guy as high as, D'Angelo Ponce, who's a 3-year guy. But Lou Moore's very talented, had a great year. Nowakowski's 6th round grade. It's really that high because he brings a fullback element to it, and I think people are really high on his tape and his blocking ability. Like, everything about him screams like round 7 to undrafted, but like just what he's been putting on tape, the rave reviews around all the online scouts and things like that. Got to imagine that someone's gonna get in on him and just bring a valuable special teams and gadget offensive weapon to their locker room. And 6th round is the best place to do that. And getting a Riley Nowakowski type. And then Kalon Black and Devon Boykin. Boykin being another like fit 6th-year guy. Very productive at Indiana, very vital to the team. However, he's just a 6th-year guy, and he wasn't an All-American. So I think it's going to be tough for him to get drafted, but I like him as a 7th-round grade. He's so solid at Indiana. It's hard for me to imagine his tape doesn't get him a chance somewhere in terms of getting draft capital allocated to him. And then Kalon Black, obviously, I might have him underrated. Like, this guy can go as high as round 4, despite his age, because that's a guy that can come into your locker room right away and be your 2nd or 3rd or 4th running back in that locker room, like day one. And because he's older, right? And like we always talk about, like, running backs don't have the longevity. Like, just take the guy who's really good now and you get 3 years out of him. NFL, the reason why, I maybe throwing shade at people and saying their careers might not be as long, it's like NFL stands for not for long. That's point blank. The average NFL career, I believe, is about like 2 point something, 3.1, something like that. It's just really hard to continue to carve out roles year in and year out when they're always upgrading through the draft. So, with that in mind, I believe 13 draft eligible guys. Could be a historic day for Indiana football from a historic team. Any thoughts? I'm gonna let you talk, Geezer, because I still have my closing thoughts, but I'm gonna let you go.
I thought it was really interesting that, you mentioned Daly, but Daly, Mark Langston, and a bunch of other guys were at the Colts like pro day or whatever like the local day was, which I thought was really interesting. Like you pointed out, there's a lot of like fringe, like, are these guys going to get drafted? Are they not? But a bunch of guys that should be on rosters. But like you said, 13 different guys that have the potential to get drafted for the Indiana Hoosiers. Like, I know that it's been a really dominant last like 29 games for the for Kurt Cignetti's Hoosiers, but like we're starting to finally see like I don't want to call it the payoff because it's been such a short amount of time, but like this is the output of an elite program is you send guys to the league like this. And maybe it's not 13 guys every year, but the fact that this is like that number is going to be next to the like this many Hoosiers were drafted, that's significant. It's significant for recruiting. It's validating for people like us who are telling you that the NFL talent level of this team was a lot higher than the general public wanted to let on. And so, it's unbelievably exciting. And like you ran through all the guys. I don't even think you talked about EJ.
EJ is definitely a guy that will be on a 90-man. It's just going to be hard for a wide receiver 4 to get drafted, same position as Johnny Brady. I think you made a great point where it's like the talent level wasn't as high and like 13 might be a high number. Like, think about the star ratings of these guys coming out. Coogan was a 4-star, yes, but Mendoza was a 2-star. Surratt was a 2-star. Fisher was a 2-star. And that level base is only going higher for the Hoosiers as they continue to get in on those, whether they're legit or not. Obviously, they're historically, inaccurate in a micro sense, but in a macro sense, they pretty much nail it for the most part, right? Where in a large sample size, most of these 4 or 5 stars, like a majority, I would say about half of them do get drafted, right, to the NFL. And that's a pretty high, I would say that's a pretty good hit rate if you're evaluating high schoolers, right, to eventually get to the NFL, right? That's a pretty good hit rate. So, like, as Indiana elevates their baseline talent as in terms of, like, freshmen coming in and where they're already at and put them in that system for 4 years, like, you got to imagine it could become an NFL machine, an NFL feeder, if you will, where that number could even get higher. I think it's going to be a pretty high mark. It might not get broken for a couple years, but, you look at this roster.
Well, 13 is a lot, and I would have to get stat corrected by the chat, but I'm pretty sure 13 was the
realistically probably ends like 11. I'm probably off on a few.
That was the number that got drafted off that Michigan championship team. That was the most draft picks they've had in a single year. So like that is like it's significant that is the number, and it's just again like what it does for recruiting, what it does for the guys in the locker room that got to compete with those guys last year. It's like, yeah, you guys weren't actually that far off from quote unquote NFL talent, regardless of what evaluators tried to say or what pundits tried to say or other opposing fans tried to say. It's like the guys in Indiana's locker room can now measure themselves against Coop, Surratt, Pons, against Fernando, going against Carter Smith, right? And then look at what that does for the confidence of the current team too. It's just an unbelievably exciting time. And
it's a snowball effect. It's
Exactly.
an avalanche.
Exactly. And just for this to be the legacy of the 2025 Indiana Hoosiers is a perfect way to put a bow on this football team.
Yeah, setting the mark. It's a celebration. Big weekend. It's a little 5 week. We're getting the number 1 overall pick. We got spring game on Thursday. It's a hell of a week to be an Indiana Indiana Hoosier, period. And like, I think there's something to your point where you mentioned the Michigan team, right? I think teams are like, as simple as it sounds, like they're like figuring out that like, hey, if we just take the players from all the best teams, we'll probably have a lot of good players. Like it's crazy. And even with like, it almost makes too much sense, especially with like the portal and everything, right? Where it's like it's almost like, why were you at Eastern Michigan? Like, why weren't you playing in the Big 12? Like, why weren't you there? I feel like that's a big question mark that a lot of guys have, where it's like, and that's only going to make the sport better. And the same goes for basketball. It's like, if you're not even making the tournament, like, what business do you have trying to take fucking Luke Kennard's job? Like, you don't. And I think football is going to have that effect too, where it's like, I think a majority of these draft picks are going to be Power 4 guys. And because if you're not Power 4, it's like, what were you doing? You know, it's were you not good enough to go to Utah? Because like, if you're telling me you couldn't get a roster spot on UCF, name a team that finished bottom half of their Power 4 conference, and you're trying to come out as a group of 5 guy, like, obviously it's really putting, like, it's casting a wide net, right? It's obviously there's great players everywhere. But it's like, you know, why don't you just go prove it with the big dogs before you try to actually go prove it in the grown man league, right? I think we're going to start seeing a lot of that shift in terms of like the Power 4, Power 5 of football, basketball is really going to separate itself, where it's like, that is your best opportunity to make the league. Cause I think that's what teams are going to start looking at, is like, are you playing like, you have all this access to go play Power 4 ball, go play Power 4 ball. Go do it. Like, I feel like that's your best way to try out for the NFL. And I think you're going to see it that way. And it's a shame. Like, I like seeing I can't wait to kind of see how that, and see if my hypothesis is right, you know?
Do you have a bow to put on the 2025 Indiana Hoosiers in the upcoming draft class? Because the next time me and you speak in front of the camera, I might pop on and do like a reaction video depending on where some guys get picked.
I'll be watching the draft. That's usually what I like to do. I don't want to be on a show when I do that.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, next time me and you speak, like, all these guys are going to be drafted. So do you have just a closing thought on what this process was?
Yeah, the process. Well, first off, it's a special opportunity for all these guys. I always say the same thing. It's a special opportunity for all the boys to get their shot to fulfill a lifelong dream of playing in the National Football League, the greatest sports league in the world. It's not close. Don't throw Premier League at me, all right? Premier League can all right, we can talk about it. Anyways, the NFL, their lifelong dream of playing in the NFL. I think the most important thing is that, you know, we obviously want to root for all these guys, right? And we want them to be as successful as possible. I think it's important to remember that a lot of this stuff that happens in the grown man league, it's a grown man league for a reason, where everything's very circumstantial and situational. Not everything's going to work out your way. Not everything's going to. Now, I think with Signetti, they're equipped to handle things like that, to handle adversity and bounce back when things aren't necessarily going their way. When they bring in that new young rookie in their year 2, where they're still fighting for a roster spot in the year 2, year 3, year 4, like, they're equipped to do that. Now, this idea of, you know, if they don't pan out, you know, are they busts, or are they? I hate putting any of those labels on anyone, because it's always so circumstantial, and just shit happens. Like, life happens. Life's hard. It's hard being an adult, let alone an adult getting paid to play football and going up against JJ and TJ Watt all the time, and like dealing with those dudes. Like, you got to be like different, right? And these guys they won a national championship, and so it doesn't matter, like, whatever happens. I just hope they end up in the best situation they can to be as successful as they can be because I know that's what they want and they have the tools to do it. Now, at the end of the day, everything's circumstantial. So it's like if they don't, pan out to the level that we maybe hope for, I don't think it's the end of the world, right? Because at the end of the day, they'll forever be national champions. And I think that's awesome. And that's something they'll be able to talk to their kids and their grandkids about and forever. And it's forever going to be etched in history legitimately because they played a national title game in a playoff setting as opposed to other national championships in the past, that they went 16-0 and brought a national championship to Bloomington, Indiana, and they'll always have that. And yeah, I just hope they find the best place to be successful for their own careers and whatever they do after Indiana or after football. And I just hope anything they do, they're successful in, and whatever that looks like, I'm rooting for them.